Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Denise Scary Show. Yesterday, it was really an important discussion we had with Major General Paul Valley. And if you missed Tuesday's broadcast, please listen up. We talked about a solar superstorm, otherwise known as an electromagnetic pulse attack, an EMP, which is a low level nuclear explosion. So, an enemy like a terrorist group or organization or a state sponsor of terror like Iran, or a country like China, which is a geostrategic enemy of the United States, or Russia, another geostrategic enemy of the US, they could, over a particular city in the United States of America, let loose an electromagnetic pulse attack, i.e., a low-level nuclear explosion. And not until President Trump was a executive order or anything done to begin to address safeguarding the critical infrastructure of the United States to prevent a meltdown. And I was talking to Major General after the program yesterday, and he says, I received something from somebody that had, top secret, above top secret compartmentalized clearances. And he sent something that's declassified. I wanted to share it with you. Really interesting. He said that after 9/11, this is a note that Major General Paul Valley receives. Is after 9/11, what's called the continuity of government plans. So the continuity of government plans refers to what the government would do in the event of the executive branch, i.e., the president, the vice president, possibly the Speaker of the House, people in the executive branch of government becoming, for example, deathly ill with COVID-19, or if a electromagnetic pulse attack was launched over Washington, D.C., over the White House, or over the U.S. Capitol building where Congress meets, or over the Supreme Court. In other words, it's called a continuity of government plans, which again is all about protecting the American people and our critical infrastructure. And this person is writing, he will remain nameless, okay, for obvious reasons. And he says he walked into a meeting a week after 9/11, and on a whiteboard there was a discussion by President Bush about EMP protection. And the top three things that they felt above all they needed to protect was electricity, number one. You got to maintain electricity across the United States, water, and nuclear power. Nuclear power, which is commercial nuclear generated electricity. So those three things were of top importance. Okay, so it hasn't been until President Trump, there's been more of a coordinated effort to deal with this. So again, thank you, President Trump, for your leadership. So I wanted to share that because if you recall, yesterday, Major General Paul Valley indicated that China and Russia were probably two of the most dangerous threats to the United States with regards to EMP, and then possibly Iran. Now, let's connect the dots. You've heard me discuss on this program in years past when I was on radio and when I first began these podcasts over a year ago, how China and Russia would provide cash assistance, would provide scientists and scientific technology to help Iran build nuclear weapons. And of course, Iran has been in the process of doing that for several years now. In addition to that, you've also heard on the Denise Scary Show how Iran is very much involved in supporting the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps in Mexico and Central America and Latin America. So let's see now. China and Russia have helped Iran build nuclear power plants for weapons of mass destruction. Iran has put the IRGC and Hezbollah, the Party of God, two terrorist organizations that are referred to as terrorist organizations by more than just the United States of America. And they are, I'm looking at an article that came out in 2018 at Gatestone Institute. It talks about how, according to testimony at the United States House of Representatives, that apparently there are now in Latin America, Mexico, Central and South America, there are Latin Americans that have been radicalized. So Hispanic people have been radicalized to Shia Islam. It talks about how this has been promoted by local political elites. The vice president of Venezuela, which is of Lebanese and Syrian origins, has been involved in trafficking cocaine and Hezbollah, right? So trafficking cocaine and Hezbollah has been involved in overseeing the trafficking of cocaine right into the United States of America, all through Latin America and into the United States and into Canada. And not only that, the IRGC has been helping Hezbollah. In addition to that, just the number of mosques and Islamic centers that have been built in countries like Venezuela, in South America, Central America, Mexico, is incredible. So drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, human trafficking, all this is going on in Latin American countries under the watchful eye of Iran and Iran's terrorist groups like the IRGC and Hezbollah. And of course, Hamas is involved, which makes me want to share this. So during this COVID-19 ordeal that people are suffering from around the world, a Hamas mouthpiece, it's a publication called Al Rasala, and in it, one of the Hamas, a Hamas author, writer, speaker, talks about how it's the Taliban that has really demonstrated to the United States how Islamic forces, the Islamic movement, has been successful in showing and demonstrating the weakness of America because we're negotiating. You know, recall under Barack Hussein Obama, we started negotiating with the Taliban in Afghanistan, and they're a terrorist organization. And of course, Trump is trying to negotiate with the Afghan government negotiating with the Taliban, and the three of us trying to work things out. Anyway, Hamas is saying that these Palestinians, they need to be like the Taliban. Well, you know, the Taliban is a brutal terrorist organization. And I'm thinking, let's connect another dot. It's now Ramadan this week. In fact, we're going to have Sophia back on the program tomorrow. This is a woman who grew up in the Middle East in a Muslim-dominant country and has really suffered, because Christians can really suffer in Muslim-dominant countries, to talk about Ramadan. But Ramadan 2019, jihadis massacred hundreds of people in just like two-week period. Ramadan lasts for several days. It's going to start this Friday. I believe it starts this Friday and ends the following Saturday. So within a 2-week period, jihadists from all over massacred people and injured over 400 more. That's well documented. And which brings me to my final point I wanted to discuss today. And that's something that I know Philip Haney was going to work on. He had shared with me he was going to Washington, D.C., either this spring or early summer. And he wanted to meet with members of Congress. The reason is because he wanted the United States government to stop the flow of your tax dollars and my tax dollars going to, for example, Palestinians, Iranian aid groups, all kinds of organizations that are quote unquote charity organizations, but are really front organizations for groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and others. For example, in an article from the Middle East Forum entitled New Research Uncovers 41 million U.S. taxpayer dollars are subsidizing Islamic groups. So paragraph 3 says, if the U.S. government's data is accurate, the U.S. government spent over $41 million that was given to institutions that are controlled by or under the influence of the Muslim Brotherhood and other Islamist groups, the Deobandis, which of course Philip had talked a lot, done a lot of research about Tablighi Jamaat, which is part of the Deobandi movement. They're 70 to 80 million strong and around the globe, and they're involved in a really strict form of Islam that recruits terrorists. And so Philip wanted to talk to these individual leaders in Washington, and go office by office and say this. For example, last year, this $41 million that was spent, looks like in 2017, 47 million. 47 million went to 61 Islamic institutions. These are grants, these are contracts that are given by the U.S. government. And the thing is, when you think about it, if these organizations are getting this kind of money is used to fund terrorism. For example, in mosques throughout America, there will be Muslims going for Ramadan, and they'll be giving what is called alms. In English, it's alms. They'll be providing donations at the mosque, and these mosques help fund terrorists, the Islamic movement, the Muslim Brotherhood. Other groups that receive money, for example, that Philip researched was the Islamic Circle of North America. This group is heavily involved with recruiting and supporting terrorism. Another group that is talked about in this article was CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. This is a group that the Representative Omar and Representative Rashida Tlaib. These are organizations that these two women that have been sympathetic towards ISIS, the Islamic State, sympathetic towards terrorist groups. The Council on American Islamic Relations provides them money. The Muslim American Society, MAS, received over $310,000 from the American taxpayers. This kind of thing has got to end, because without it, we're going to keep funding people who are all about undermining the United States legal system, our culture, and our people through martyrdom operations called jihad. So I just read and saw a video last night, not here in America, this was in Israel. Israel stands with the United States shoulder to shoulder in the war against Islamic terrorism. And a young man, I believe it was a soldier, not as opposed to a policeman, was directing traffic due to the COVID-19 in Israel. And a Muslim Arab, I believe they said it was a Palestinian, literally was in a truck and tried to kill him by ramming into him. This young man flipped up over the car, and this Muslim Arab Palestinian stopped his car, or actually it looked more like an SUV or a truck, and literally ran out of the vehicle with a knife and started stabbing this young man. In the meantime, thank God, the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF soldiers, other young men, came to his rescue, and this terrorist was killed. Thank God. But this is the type of thing that we've seen, these ramming attacks here in the United States. So I just think it's incredibly important. What Philip was all about was educating these members in the United States House of Representatives and in the U.S. Senate about how the government is probably unaware that these groups that receive this grant money, these contracts that are receiving aid from the United States government, taxpayer money, are using it to help facilitate jihad in America and overseas. Which brings me to the next point. I wanted to say that the President of the United States should absolutely be commended on his decision to temporarily, for 60 days temporarily ban all immigration. Because we do not have the ability to vet everyone coming into the United States, to understand who they are, who they support, are they jihadists or not? Are they carrying a biological weapon? What kinds of weapons might they have access to here in America? What might they be planning? These were the kinds of people that Philip Haney used to interview. And I thought that was excellent, especially excellent in light of the fact that the United States Navy today was informed by the Commander-in-Chief, President Trump, that these Iranian fast boats that are coming right up to U.S. warships to harass them, possibly fire on them. I want to remind everybody the USS Cole, 2000. The USS Cole, remember that U.S. warship? There, it had docked in the, I believe it was in the Bay of Yemen, and these fast boats, I believe it was a fast boat. It was a boat that came up to this American ship. Looks so nothing compared to, a great big warship, and comes right up and literally blows a hole due to the explosives on board this little tiny fishing boat. Again, I don't recall now if it was a fast boat or a fishing boat, but loaded with explosives, came right up to that USS Cole and blew a hole in it and killed Americans. This was just before 9/11. I want you to see a clip of what it looks like. Now, this isn't a clip that was released by the U.S. Navy today. I believe this was from last year. Isaac, is this from last year? Does it say 2019 or 2018?
I believe it was last year.
Yeah, last year. My producer's going to play it for you now.
His gun's unpinned.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, he's coming up. They're taking the bow.
So again, President Trump this morning at 5:08 a.m. said, quote, "I have instructed the United States Navy to shoot down and destroy any and all Iranian gunboats if they harass our ships at sea." And again, that was not from today, this morning. But the point is that these fast boats came within 10 yards of the United States Navy, and there were 11 of them. Now, that video only shows you 2. I want you to think about this. There were 11 today. 11. Swarming the United States naval ships. Not good. Not good. And you say, what does this have to do with Philip's work going to Congress and saying we have to stop funding Islamist groups? Because when you fund Islamist groups here in America, you're helping aid and abet Iran, Hezbollah, the IRGC, in being able to afford fast boats 11 of which were swarming U.S. naval ships. I want you to look at this clip. This is from MEMRI, the Middle East Media Research Institute. This is a television video, and it shows an Ayatollah, an Iranian Ayatollah, talking about how America's warships could be easily destroyed by Iranian missiles, and that Iran has the authority to launch them, and indeed, they will. So let's go to that clip.
اینا هیچ وقت ناوگانشون رو به کار میارن، نزدیک ما بیارن، اما فکر کنید به کار ببرن، فقط جایی به کار میبرن که بدونن طرف جرأت پس زدن رو نداشته. ولی ناوگان با اون میلیاردها با یه موشک خراب میشه، با یه موشک 10 موشک به ناوگان جنگی آمریکا خواهد خورد اگر بخواد تکون بخوره. چرا؟ برای اینکه اونجا دیگه اجازه دست بعضی از مسئولین ما نیست که امروز و فردا بکنن. اونجا دیگه دست رهبر عزیز انقلابه که وقتی حرف رو میزنه عمل کنه.
So this is the call to action today. Please contact your member of Congress, both on the House and Senate side, and say it's time to end all funding of Islamist organizations, Muslim Brotherhood groups like CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, groups like ISNA, the Islamic, the Islamic Circle of North America, MAS, the Muslim American Society, and another group that I'm thinking of that receives funds, that's the Muslim Brotherhood group, is the Muslim Student Association, the MSA. The MSA is on every campus across America, universities, community colleges. I've debated them at the university level and at the community college when I was teaching in those places, and it is incredible, absolutely incredible, the amount of U.S. taxpayer dollars that fund Islamism here in America. Again, this helps jihadists here in America and overseas because these organizations support jihad. You know, I was reading Philip's book, See Something, Say Something, again last night, and I noticed on page 168, when Philip was, of course, asked to speak on many occasions, and he was with a group of people, and Newt Gingrich had given a toast at this group he was with, and Representative Congressman Gohmert was there, and so anyway, people were giving toasts, and Philip gave a toast, and he quoted Abraham Lincoln's December 1st, 1862 message to Congress. And this is the quote that Philip gave from Abraham Lincoln. He said, quote, "The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. So shall we save our country." And I think to myself, it's absolutely time, with things like electromagnetic pulse attacks, the potential for those, the potential for Iran to use one, China, Russia, as Major General Paul Valley talked about, and the fact that we're still funding these Islamic groups that also receive support from China and Russia is a mistake. And it has to be discussed, and it has to be dealt with, and I hope you'll help deal with it. Thank you so much for listening to the Denise Gary Show. I want to talk to you about Carson Blacklock. He is a real estate agent. He was so kind and helped Philip and I hope that whatever real estate needs you have, you will contact him because he is a man of integrity. Carson Blacklock, 661 area code 203-3544. And for dinner tonight, please contact Ralph Frugaletti. You don't have to talk to Ralph Frugaletti, the owner. Just call Frugatti's Restaurant at 661-836-2000. 661-836-2000. Call Frugatti's Restaurant. They're right there on Coffee Road in the city of Bakersfield. Call them and say, I want to order whatever it is you want to order. Again, they have such delicious food. They also have a vegan or gluten-free dishes. They have a fitness menu, and well as those just fabulously tasting traditional Italian meals. So good. Give them a call, 661-836-2000. And if you're working at a major defense company or aerospace company, you want Anatase products to build your hardware and ship it to you. You want them to be able to handle whatever top secret testing that needs to be done. They have a materials testing laboratory at Anatase products, and they can do whatever you need and handle all your top secret hardware requirements. Give Scott Baker, the president and former Marine Corps officer, a call at 661-822-6873. 661-822-6873. Again, thank you for listening to the Denice Scary Show. Please support our work. We need to hear from you today. Please send a tax-deductible contribution to my 501c3 educational foundation. It's called the Middle East Initiative. Imagine that. The Middle East Initiative. Send that tax-deductible contribution to P.O. Box 82162, Bakersfield, California, 93380. Thank you again for listening. Share this show out. Thanks. See you tomorrow.